All right. Uh, Adam Slack, good to have you, bud.
Good to be here
Yeah,
virtually
I
in our,
know. Not
giving space.
yeah, we used to be across the street from each other. Even if we were, we would only be able to wave.
I know, exactly.
Funny.
Exactly.
Hey, thanks for doing this. And really, the first thing is just it'd be great just to tell people who is what is Two Roads.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Two Roads is it's a bookkeeping firm. We started about 9 years ago. Actually, 9 years ago next week will be our anniversary. And we handle bookkeeping in the cloud for businesses, from startups all the way to $20 million enterprises. We basically take the accounting department and outsource it. Similar to what you guys are doing from an IT perspective. We're just in the same space from an accounting perspective. And so, as you all go in and help people take the IT burden off companies' plates and put it, in the cloud, so to speak, we do the same thing with accounting.
Cool. And just full disclosure, we are a customer and a very thankful and happy customer. So
That's all right. Well, good. I'm glad you're happy, especially in
no,
today's
I know, and a
world.
time like this, I was actually talking to our, contact Melissa, and she was like, what are you thinking about us? And I said, look, the last thing I need to do is cut out my CFO and bookkeeper. I would this would be a complete train wreck. so,
Yeah, well,
uh,
that's what we're hearing. We're hearing a lot of that, which is encouraging. But it's still we're feeling it for our business owners that are working through this. It's very painful. And I'm
yeah,
glad you mentioned that. We also do CFO services, so you are a client there as well. It's a smaller product that we're very selective on, but we do help businesses from a fractional CFO perspective as well.
cool, awesome. Well, the reason for having you here, Adam, was the race to now a virtual workforce. I guess it went from a thing to do to the thing we have to do in a matter of 14 days. and so,
Yeah.
so as we have dealt with lots of customers who are like, we're going home, we're sending everybody home. What do we do? How do we get access? I started thinking the technology is important, and we'll talk about that. But the thing that I keep coming back to is just the kind of cultural, behavioral, like how do people operate, and knowing a little bit about you guys, and knowing that you're not just a virtual workforce in Knoxville, you're a virtual workforce. I don't know if you're now nationwide, but I know like one of the people I deal with lots in Florida, and so
Right.
I
Yep.
thought a great way to start it is, 8 years of doing this, you've done it from the start this way. So, just kind of what has it been like? What have been the challenges? I think about culture, what have been the
Hmm.
challenges, people and, behavioral challenges, getting people on board, managing people, all that stuff. So I'd turn it over to you.
Yeah, absolutely. It has had its challenges, and we actually weren't from the beginning remote. We were actually the first 6 months we were trying to do it the old-fashioned way, where we would trade thumb drives and paper with clients, and we quickly realized that if we wanted to keep up with them, we better go remote. So um, we actually went to an IT company and gave them a blank check and said, I don't know what this cloud thing is, but we've heard that we need to get into it, and so take us to the cloud. And so we went about 6 months into the gig and to virtual. At the time, our strategy was still hire local, but allow everybody to work remote. And the thought was it's still good to have tactile feedback from people. And so we'd have, monthly meetings, and those were really our opportunity to instill culture into the company. And this was, I think, if it wasn't before Slack, it was before we started adopting programs like Slack. And so really we got these just very infrequent touch points, but we would infuse those touch points with almost all culture stuff. So we would talk about business, but it would really be who we want to be as a company, what's our culture look like. And I think those early days, now we don't do those in person anymore, and I'll talk about kind of how we accomplish that now. But I think those early days really helped us kind of set the stage for what it could look like. Um, but I'd say even today, now almost 9 years later, we're still having to instill culture in most of our meetings. And one of the ways that we protect that is we force everyone to go virtual in all meetings. So while now we still have about probably half of our staff geographically local, the other half are scattered over, I think, 10 states now, mostly on the Eastern Seaboard, Central Eastern time zones. But even if you're in the office, we have about 5 people that still go, well, not anymore, but we did have an office where we had about 5 people go to the office. And if we had meetings where, if we had to have a meeting at all, we would do it all through Zoom or Teams, like what we're using here, and just really create an even playing field for everybody, regardless of where they were located. And so you didn't have some people that were able to have, face-to-face across the desk meetings, and some people have to have remote meetings because it kind of created a break. Now, I'd say that was probably one of our largest lessons, and that was learned in like year 7 to 9. So, I mean, like over the last 2 years, we've been learning like to tweak it a little bit, bit. We used to say, okay, if you're in town, come to a physical location, and then we'll broadcast to the people that were outside of town. And just little things like that, we just started seeing cracks in the culture. And so, when you go this way, if you're thinking about it, not you, Paul, but if you have clients that are thinking about it, I would just make sure that they create an even playing field. Everybody's playing by the same sheet of music, and that will really help the culture kind of stay even from the perspective of, I know where my pains are. If I know where my pains are, I know I can go solve those pains. And we're going to talk about, I know, tech here in a second, but this one piece of tech, I already mentioned it once, is Slack. It's just been crucial for us to be able to have an active, ongoing channels. And so with Slack, if you don't know what Slack is it's a chat program where you can invite your team, you can invite clients to, you can have outside people come to it. You can create rooms that you can chat in, so you can talk through, like we've got a Corona room right now, where we've identified, okay, if we're going to talk about Corona, put it in this room. That way we can have one place to go look for information rather than emails flying all over the place, or it was buried in some channel, 3 days ago, and I got to go find it. So it kind of helps you bifurcate information like that to be able to kind of keep it active and real. So I'd say that's, if you're going to go remote, if you've got clients that are going to go remote, get something like that installed pretty quickly. Microsoft, I think, has a product. Is Teams?
What we're using right now. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Okay, so Teams can do both that and so just some tool like that you can get in place and get everybody active on, I think is really crucial to it. And then one more piece. Sorry, to go along with that real quick. One more piece that we've also done is we've kind of tagged. Now they kind of self-selected. They raised their hand and we were like, yeah, you'd be great at this. But we've kind of tagged folks to be to keep everything active. So they're getting in there and chatting and saying, hey, how's everybody's Monday? Or they'll throw a silly GIF in. And they kind of stoke the fire when it starts to get a little light and gets everybody back in and engaged. And so really identifying those people early on and saying, hey, it really benefits the company when you do that. Keep doing that. So it's just more encouragement more than it is like a title, so to speak. But it's really helped.
So what is, in that respect, what or how has your role been different? Because I've known each other for a long time. So you've been a traditional CFO, you've been an entrepreneur, you've done you've kind of done a lot. And I would imagine almost everything you did up into this was, I go into an office and I have a desk and a door, and people come in and talk to me, and I schedule meetings and we do one-on-ones and we sit across from each other. And so as a CEO, as a leader, like, how has your role changed in the business, or been different, or what's different?
Yeah, it's a lot different. And I would say that I'm not doing a very good job. So you might, maybe if you edit any part out, you can edit this part out.
Is that different? It's a different recording.
That's right, different recording. One of the things that I've tried to do, not done great at, is just call people, because you're right. You normally get walked by management, right? I mean, for the first 15 years of my career in management, it was pretty easy. Just walk by someone's desk and, hey, how you doing? How are the kids? How's the family? What did you guys get into last weekend? And you just lose that. And so, you've got to be pretty intentional about it. And so I'll say kind of two things. One, the people that are your direct reports, you just have to get much more intentional about following up with them and talking to them. And so I'm on the phone with those people pretty frequently, even beyond chat and email, just to keep that kind of, active communication. And then with the team at large, I've tried different strategies. My most recent one was just to try to create a list and call them all and just check in on them. I've not done a great job at that, but that's kind of been the strategy that I've tried to do. But it's certainly been, and this might be a better answer to your question, trust has had to increase a lot. I don't think I was a micromanager. You have to ask some people that have been working with me for a long time. I don't think I was ever a micromanager, but I think I certainly have opinions about things. And so I'd get drawn into more. In a physical location, you get drawn into more. And now I just kind of see things happening and, I just trust the teams working on it, doing the best they can. And, if they ever draw me into it and want to have my opinion, I'll jump in. But if not, I just try to stay hands off and let them run. So,
A, a,
just
a
been
friend of
free.
mine, the reason I asked you the question, he told me that he read an article somewhere about, I think it was a British company or something, that what your last piece was, one of the things that he really touched on was like, my role as the CEO changed a lot because more decisions are being made without me because I wasn't there just to grab and ask the question, which is
Right.
what you want as a leader. Is you want the leaders that are, that you're leading, to take more responsibility, to multiply, and to make decisions. So that's an interesting. That's two data points now. You, and then
Yeah.
without prompting you to it, that article too. I think it'll be interesting to see, for sure, with organizations and how leaders adapt to it, because that
Yep.
will be hard for people that maybe are more micromanagers or more command and control style leaders.
Yep. And that's just a cautionary tale going into this thing. It's just be prepared for it. And just know if there is something that's happening in your business, to just jump in. Like, you're going to have to be proactive because it's probably not
Mm-hmm.
going to be brought to you. So, like, if I know we're about to make a big initiative, I'll have to say, like, I want to be included in those meetings,
Yeah.
or I want to be added to that Slack channel. I want to keep up with what's going on,
Yeah.
versus the default being, I think I'm involved in everything,
Yeah.
So
That's good.
it has been good. That's been good overall, because I've seen a lot of folks just grow and leaders grow in the company, and that's been a lot of fun. So I
Yeah.
think we wouldn't have had that had we been in the old model.
That's interesting. So let's talk real quick about technology again. You mentioned Slack, there's Teams, et cetera, but how are you guys leveraging it in an intentional way to manage the business, manage culture, pull people in, get people involved?
Yeah, this might be a better question for you actually than me. I should probably say, well, how should I be using this? We try to, as best we can, use as much software for specific purposes rather than trying to find like one piece to rule them all. Which
Yeah.
I think we're seeing these swings in technology, and you might be seeing it as well, where before you would companies were creating software to try to come in and install it into your hardware, and it would be something that, hey, this is one tool that you can do for everything. I think that Apple kind of creating the App Store, creating little micro businesses where you could plug in like a receipt manager, or you could plug in
Yeah.
like a Slack, created this kind of ecosystem now where you've got lots of software that can plug in and run on top of each other. We're definitely more in that space today, where we try to find tools that work together rather than try to find one tool that can do everything for us. But I think that's swinging back. I think we're starting to see software move more into that one place to rule them all sort of thing. And I don't know what that pendulum swing will look like, but we're just seeing more and more of software developers out there trying to add lots of different pieces to it.
Features. Yeah.
The key for us is just keeping it all virtual. So we use programs like Bill.com, if you haven't heard of that one, which helps people pay bills remotely, no more paper checks. And you can load your invoices in there. You can have approval processes and get them kicked out the door. It's a great software. If you're going virtual, you need to check in it first. There's other programs like Receipt Bank, or programs like QuickBooks Online, just different tools that are web-based that enable us to work from anywhere and still able to get the job done.
Yeah.
Mail still is the probably the oldest thing we have to still deal with, and it's a function of what it is.
Yeah.
But other than that, we're using everything to be as remote as possible. And really, we want to create it to where it's our wind down and our startup is pretty quick. So we want to have our technology stack, identified and documented, so that if we ever have to unplug an employee, or if we have to plug one in, it's something that we can do relatively quickly. And so I'd say SOPs along with that software, standard operating procedures. If you've got clients that are about to go remote, is start there. Make sure they know what, help them, and you guys can help them do this from the perspective of like probably know the software they're using, and then just help them make sure they can get those folks onboarded and offboarded.
Yeah.
And I think
Well,
you'll assist with that as well. So
yeah. Well, I'll say even a little commercial again for you
yeah,
guys.
please. Yeah.
Like as a client using Bill.com, has been just like for me, a dream.
Yeah.
It was the visibility into invoices without them having to be on my desk, and everything else, has made a big impact. And for us as a company, we're an Office 365 shop, so we use Teams, and Teams has kind of become the hub. So it's like combining Slack and Zoom and your calendar and all those other things together, file sharing, all that stuff together. And I think you're right, it has been an interesting phenomena where we went from an ERP system that did everything to a bunch of apps that were broken out and that do very specific things, and now we're kind of morphing back toward. And I get it. I mean, sometimes I look at my phone, I'm like, well, why do I have that app on there? And I'm like deleting apps, and so I think that is a balance for people to sort of sort through. Is like, what do I need? How much is too much? When am I fragmented, and when do I need to be integrated? So it's a good point for sure.
And having somebody on staff that is really driving that's also key. So again, these don't have to be roles that are like that's the only thing the person does, but just someone's sub role is also just to make sure that they're doing that. They're keeping up with the apps that we've got turned on, and do we still need it? Are we still using it? What's that look like? So
yeah. Well, one thing for us that has been really interesting when you mentioned about meetings and culture and stuff is a couple of team members. We did our normal Friday training. We did it virtually this week or last week. And a couple people said, hey, turning the camera on so that we can see you makes a big difference.
Oh, yeah.
So the virtual presence of your face, just makes a difference for people versus just the two initials that sit on the screen saying, somebody's here. So I don't know if that's been the same for you guys, but it's something that I think is if somebody has a webcam, it's just a requirement. You need to turn it on.
That's right.
And so everybody can see your face.
That's a great point. Yep, and we do require that. That is for our meetings that we do have. You have to have webcam on and active because you just need that tactile feedback, and it's hard enough. I've been seeing some of these. This is kind of a little bit of a rabbit trail here, but our church has gone virtual. They can't. You're not congregating anymore. And you see these pastors up here that are speaking to these empty rooms, and I can just imagine how difficult it is for them because it's like nobody's giving tactile feedback.
I know, that's gonna be
and you
great.
don't get that in these Zooms either because everybody will mute and they'll just kind of listen, and so you might make a joke or something, and you don't hear anything back, but you can see them. And so because you can kind of see them, it helps you kind of go, okay, they're tracking with me, they're right there with me, and so we require everybody to use the video as well.
It is an interesting thing we do. On our huddles, we do good news and go around the room, and so. A lot of times I'll start it and like, well, who's next? I have to say, all right, you go next. And
It's not a circle anymore.
I don't know. Who's next? There's no circle.
The number I draw.
Well, so the last question, and then we'll wrap up, is just how do you think this model has helped you as it pertains to hiring and retaining? Do you think it's hurt in any way? And then, do you think it's affected? Do you think clients care? Have you seen anything from a client perspective?
Great question. Let me answer the hurt side first, and hopefully that'll give kind of tailwind going into the client side. We thought that it would be really challenging going out and finding folks, and it actually hasn't. And our retention rate has been off the charts. And and we do surveys about every 6 months with our staff. And one of the things that they say is being remote is a huge benefit for them. And so I'd say if you stack Two Roads up, and this is probably not a good advertisement for Two Roads, but my belief in benefits and the way we handle benefits is probably a little countercultural just because of, how I think the systems are broken. And so when you come to Two Roads, you don't get this massive benefits package. It's got like 20 different offerings. It's just one. It's like, this is how much we're going to pay you. We're going to pay you as much as we possibly can from a market perspective. And then we're going to let you choose to do with those dollars how you want to do it. Now, one benefit, we do offer unlimited PTO, so we have no limits on that, which we just found it was more difficult to manage from a remote perspective than it was, and so just everybody let them be, they're adults, they can make their own decisions to keep everybody happy. Because of those things, we've got a line out the door. So this is to encourage folks that are thinking about going remote. This has been by far one of the easiest byproducts or best byproducts of going remote is our team is just, they're rock stars. And we're getting folks from North Carolina, Florida, Ohio, all over the place. And they're finding out about us through these. Now, this will probably dry up if everybody starts going remote, but they're finding out about us from these remote job boards that people post about us. And then we'll just get hundreds of resumes in. So we've actually had to create pretty significant hurdles on the front end where we put tests in place just to try to weed through how many people we have coming at us. And I would tell people that now in the next 6 months, hiring is probably going to get a lot easier for people. But, 6 months ago, it wasn't. 6 months ago, we were in one of the, hardest times to hire. And one of the number one complaints that I heard in our clients in the community was just finding good people. It was hard to find good people.
Yeah,
and we just didn't have that problem because it was being virtual created this kind of just bench of people that we could pull from. So much so that we would start recruiting people and we'd say, hey, we're not slating to hire for 2 months from now, but we're recruiting now. And then we might make the decision and say, January, we like this person, we want to offer them a job, and we slate them to start in March. And we can control that just because, they want to come work here. And so it takes a while to get in, but once you get in, it's, people they stick around. We lost our first bookkeeper about 4 months ago. It might have been 5 months ago, and that was the first one we lost in 3 years.
Wow.
So we had a very, I was proud to say we haven't lost anybody in 3 years, and then we lost somebody, but now I have to say we only lost one person in the last a little over 3 years. And so that part's been great. From the client perspective, we've definitely had to answer that question a lot on the front end. Is what if I want to meet with them? What if I want to talk to them? And then we just ask a lot of questions that kind of see what they're really trying to get at there. What are you guys normally talking about in those meetings? What are you hoping to accomplish? And typically through those questions, we can get them to where they realize, like, I can just pick up the phone or I can do a Zoom call.
Yeah.
And once they kind of get in the system and they get into our ecosystem from Bill.com and they get in the ecosystem from Receipt Bank, once they see how well it works, those worries just go away. So once you've been with us for a little while, I don't think, I have to go back and look because we track why customers leave us just because it's, we want to get better every day. And I can't remember, I'll say that. I won't say it hasn't happened. I can't remember a time where someone's left us because they just wanted to have more of a tactile conversation with their bookkeeper. They were fine with this kind of environment.
Nobody leaves because you don't have an office. Like, listen, I can't have an office.
It's just isn't working out for me. Exactly.
I just couldn't handle that. I just couldn't do it.
No, they typically like the fact that it just can stay nimble and run with them. So it's been good.
What's interesting is, little vulnerability on our side is we lost an employee because the job they went to take was 100% remote.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think we're going to see that more and more.
Yeah,
I think we're going to have to see.
Well,
companies are going to figure it out.
Yeah, we're going to change it. I mean, I've been wanting to for a while. We just weren't, and a lot of people have already had it's interesting. A lot of people had the freedom, but liked coming into the office, and we have an open office environment, which is in many ways counterproductive to productivity.
Yeah.
And so it's, I'm rethinking a lot of things and how to do it. And this is a great experiment, for us, that's showing everyone in our team that what that looks like. And then maybe we still need an office, but maybe we need half the size, or because there are limitations. Like we don't take customer equipment to people's houses. We have to have it somewhere secure and stuff like that. So
you guys won't be able to get it completely.
Yeah, with every company, they've got challenges they have to sort through. If you're obviously if you're a physician's practice, or you have to have a physical.
Come to my house.
Unless we go back to the old days and go to house calls, which are which is really telemedicine. So I guess we'll find out.
That's true.
But
that's true. I didn't think of that.
Yeah. Well, this is super helpful. You have any kind of parting thoughts that you want to to encourage people on?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I always have thoughts. I guess I should probably say I should probably try to regulate them. No, I think just go do it. I think ship and figure out is something we say internally. You're obviously not shipping anything, but we just say, hey, launch it and figure it out. Like, go ahead and release the people, find out where it's broken, and then shred up. And it's really going to be your people's ability to maintain their professionalism that really makes this succeed or fail. And so really making sure they understand it's still a job. Just because you're remote, like, you still have a job to do. There's still work to be done. But by and large, people, when they get a benefit like this, they want to protect it. And so by protecting it, they typically execute pretty well. So I'd say people are going to find that pleasantly surprised by what happens from this.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, good. Well, I appreciate you, Adam, and thanks for taking a few minutes with us. And whenever I get this posted, I'll let you know.
Yeah, thank you, Paul. You guys have a good one over there.
All right, man. See ya.
See ya.